Hey everybody, finally we're live. I had to reconfigure our live streaming settings. So hello everybody, it's Free Friday. Welcome, welcome. We are, thank you guys for joining us live here on our Facebook page. We're gonna start live streaming also on our Instagram starting next week. So you can join us over there. If you have friends that are over there on Instagram, maybe they're not on Facebook, you're welcome to join us over there as well. And we will be starting a whole new series next week that we're going to talk about that I think you're going to love. And so, hey, who's ready to be free? Who's ready to have some freedom today? Say hello. Now we are joining you from a whole new location today, although you cannot tell it from the background. But we are now in Red Bluff, California, in a beautiful RV resort. We just arrived here last night in the nighttime, so I haven't actually gotten to experience what's around us. We're kind of waking up to a surprise. So
although I'll say, looking out the windows, it was beautiful, beautiful trees out. So
yes,
look forward to walking around.
So hopefully we can bring you along with us next week. We'll join you outside, and you guys can take it all in with us and join us on the road. So say hello. Let me know if you can see and hear me okay. And we're going to get started. So I just shared with them that we're going to be joining live Lex next week on Instagram as well, is where we're going to start also broadcasting. So yes. So those of you who are new to our live broadcast, my name is Amy Miller, and I am not normally joined by my handsome husband here, Jim. But he has been joining us as we've been talking through this series on dreaming. Now, and he adds such value. He hasn't shared much about himself. Maybe you'll have to do that over the next coming weeks, because he's going to join us in the next series as well. So I'm a wife and a mom who doesn't dream sometimes, but that is changing over the course of this past series. So if you've forgotten how to dream, or if you're in this process with me, welcome to you. If you want to go back to any of our series on dreaming, we've been talking, I'll recap it in just a minute, so that you can, in fact, tell you how you can join in seeing some of those replays. But this is Free Friday. It's our weekly series on Fridays to experience freedom in more areas of our lives, living our lives more abundantly. And it's a bonus if we can do this in natural ways, right?
Totally.
So my lips are a bit chapped here in Northern California. So what kind of freedoms are we going to experience today, Jim?
Today we're gonna be free to experience our best life. We're gonna be free from being stuck.
But specifically today, overcoming obstacles.
Mm-hmm. Free from roadblocks and inactivity and the fear that's associated with an obstacle. A lot of times there's a fear associated with an obstacle. So
what do you want to be free from in overcoming the obstacles to your dreams? You know, I'm curious, how many of you have experienced some obstacles while taking action on your dreams? Whatever those dreams are that God has placed on your heart, those desires that he's placed on your heart, put a 1 in the comments below if you've experienced some obstacles while taking actions on those dreams. Because today we're going to be talking about hopefully walking away with 5 tangible ways that you can overcome some of those obstacles. So, but let's just recap briefly, because in case you're just joining us in this series, we've been talking over the last 4 or 5 weeks. We started out by talking about just giving yourself permission to dream and to dream bigger until it scares you. We then talked about how can we, once we have a hold of those dreams, how can we start to visualize those? And visualizing is really just daydreaming with a purpose, like a mental rehearsal for what is to come. And And then we moved on into talking about, should you tell somebody, and why should you tell somebody these dreams? And we worked through the different reasons to tell somebody. And then was it last week? I think it was last week. We talked about doing something, actually taking some action on those dreams. So have you started that process? Anybody? Comment below. Yes. Actually, let me see. I can't see your comments here. So let me see if anybody's who's on live with us. Sometimes it won't show me the comments until after you guys, after we're finished. So, so if I don't see your comment while we're live, I promise I'll go back. We'll go back during the replay and talk to you. And hey, Bethany, good to see you. Good morning. Okay, so what obstacles are you facing as you pursue your dream? And so let's just dive into some of those things. I know, Jim, you've got some things to share about this.
Yeah.
And I don't see any notes here, so I guess they're over there.
They're over there.
All right.
Well, yes.
We're a little bit flying by the seat of our pants here this morning.
It was a late night last night getting in. So, all right.
None of you have ever done that before, right?
Mm-hmm. So,
oh, actually, let me say really quickly. So if you want to go back and see any of those, watch any of those, and maybe this resonates with you. Maybe you've been thinking about, I don't have any dreams, or maybe you've been thinking about, I don't know how to start taking action on them. We've been working through this over the last several weeks. So you can find those replays on right here on our Facebook page in the videos section, although it may be easier to find them on our YouTube channel. And you can go straight to, you can type in 3 Life Essentials and it will pull up our YouTube channel. And these are all in our Free Friday series. You can see that whole series on dreaming and you can catch those there. And you can click subscribe and you'll be notified anytime we upload these. So if you can't join us live, you'll always be able to see those recordings and you'll get notified of those. So all right, so let's talk about this.
Okay, so let's go through it. So what we're going to do, we're stealing from a couple different people today. If you guys have heard of a guy named Tim Hightower, he's a professional football player in the NFL, and he came and spoke at the last doTERRA convention, and he shared a few P's that we're going to talk through today. But then when we talk about obstacles, kind of the latest seminal work on the subject is a book called The Obstacle Is a Way. And that is a book that has actually made its circuit through, this has actually made it through major league sporting teams. Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots have passed this out to every single team, every player on their team. Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks have done the same thing. This is a book that's made its way through different organizations. The military has adapted this book and has begun using it with a lot of their leadership. And so this is a book that's really made the rounds quite a bit. And shall I oil up? Yeah.
Speaking of Tim Hightower and his family, if you ever wonder if true athletes, pro athletes use essential oils, yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
The Hightowers love doTERRA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's a pretty manly man, honestly. So, so I'm kind of melding their thoughts together and some of what they've talked about together today. We're going to kind of share a little bit about each one, but if you just are looking for a book to read or to listen to in Audible, then I highly suggest The Obstacle Is a Way. It does an amazing job of working through things. So, but I want to, real quick, I'm going to share a story, okay? And I want you to listen to this story. I'm going to have to read it so that I get it right, but here's what it says. It says there was a poor farmer and his 19-year-old son.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to quiet the background noise here for just a minute. I'm so sorry to interrupt this story because this is going to be a good story.
So there's a poor man and his 19-year-old son, and they owned a farm. And one day, a wild horse ran out from the wilderness and came into the pen that was on their farm. And they were able to capture this wild horse. And all of the townspeople, when they heard about it, they were like, oh, what an amazing fortune. What an incredible fortune. And the old man, when he was talking to them, he said, good fortune, bad fortune. Who's to say? And then as the son was trying to tame the horse later, sorry, our light just went off, but Amy will come and play with that when she gets back in here. But as the man was trying to tame the horse later, his son got thrown off of the horse and broke his leg. And all of the townspeople came and they looked at the son with the broken leg and they said, "Oh no, what terrible fortune." And the man said, "Good fortune, bad fortune. Who's to say?" And then not long after that, the military, the country's military, came marching through this town on their way to go to a foreign country, a distant country, to fight in a terrible battle. And they came and they were looking for men of age to go and fight in this war. And they stopped at the man's home because they heard that he had a son, but when they saw that he had a broken leg, they couldn't take him to war. And so the townspeople heard about that and they came, they said, "Oh, what good fortune." And the man's response was, say it with me, "Good fortune, bad fortune, who's to say?" Now, the point of the story is this, that each of the people was trying to look at the things that had happened to them with a perceiving eye. They were trying to perceive good or bad from it. But really what we're encouraged to do is we're encouraged to look at things through just an observing eye, to see things for what they are, not for what we're making them out to be. And that kind of relates back to the first point that is in the book, The Obstacle is the Way. And the first point is perception, that we need to see things for what they are, but not take it out to be more than what it really is. And as we see it for what it is, then that allows us the opportunity to wrangle and wrestle with this obstacle and see how this obstacle may be something that leads us into a greater, that leads us into a different direction or refines the direction that we're going. But we're going to talk more about that later. So welcome back. Welcome back, my love.
Thank you. Oh, and I see that
our light has gone out. I encourage the people that you would take care of that as soon as you walked in, though. So the moral of the story is that each of these events in their lives were not good or bad. It was just an event. And the same is true of the obstacles that you're facing. The obstacle that you're facing is not a good obstacle. It's not a bad obstacle. It's just an obstacle. And each obstacle should be seen as an opportunity for us to grow, to change, and to strive. And so we're going to kind of flesh that out a little bit. So that first part from that book is perception. And that really kind of encompasses a couple of the things that Tim Hightower talked about. So one of the quotes that he had at the very beginning was that he said, "I can," take over, Amy. I can, I will, I must. I can, I will, I must.
Say it with us.
Ready?
I can, I will, I must.
So all of that is really important to recognize. First off, that you have the ability to. Secondly, that you will, I'm going to, this is something that's going to happen. And third, I must. So there's no turning back. It's time to burn the boats, so to speak, and say there's not an option. Not doing it is not an option. I'm going to push forward through this. And so I can, I will, I must gives us kind of a framework to move forward in. And so that was a really important thing. And that was something that he repeated multiple times throughout the time that he was speaking. But it's just a great mentality, a great framework for a mentality for us as we are working and moving through an obstacle, to just affirm for ourselves that we can do this. We can take care of this. We can move through this obstacle. I will move through this obstacle because I must work through this obstacle. I don't have an option. So we're going to do this. Yeah. And so, and then if you go back to that perception idea, that I'm not seeing this as a horrible thing or a bad thing, but maybe this is an amazing opportunity. Maybe this is an amazing opportunity for us. So
I love that. It's hard to perceive obstacles as a positive thing.
Yeah.
Many times, isn't it?
Yeah.
It helps to have someone who's positive, extra positive in your life. If you don't have that positivity in your life, like maybe it's hard to drum up for yourself. It's actually a strength, a talent that you can have to see things in that positive light. So maybe that's not a strength for you. Seek out people who are that don't drag you down even more. There's no time for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No time for it. because we do have, I mean, everything is an opportunity. Everything is opportunity. And you may say, well, you don't know my story, Jim. Well, you're right. I don't know your story. We don't know your story for sure. But I do know that there are people that do know your story. And when you move through this obstacle, it's going to be an amazing encouragement to them. And your mess is your message. And so you can, and you will, and you must, because there are people looking at you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it always helps in those moments to go back to our purpose. And to define our purpose. So the first one was that I can, I will, I must. And the second one is purpose. So what is the purpose that you have? What is your reason for doing these things?
What is dream?
Yeah. What is it? What is the underlying motivation behind this dream? Your purpose is the thing that's going to wake you up and get you moving in the morning. Your purpose is a thing that when everything is bleak around you, it's going to keep you focused and keep you driven. Your purpose is the wind beneath your wings.
Well, yeah. Is your purpose, to pay the bills? Okay. Well, that's one thing.
It's a noble purpose.
Yeah. But it's also, I think there's going to be deeper layers to that if you dig deeper into that. Okay. What's the purpose in paying the bills? Well,
it gives you freedom to do things. It helps you to not have that anxiety of I can't pay the bill. So there's a lot of
what's the purpose in not having those constraints or those tie down, so to speak? Well, then you have freedom to maybe give to someone else in need, or maybe your purpose is and we've talked about this with our dreams, to dream even bigger. Maybe that purpose is really not just paying the bills, but the true purpose, the deeper, even why is that important to you? Because maybe it's even bigger, like building an orphanage across the country or across the world. Bigger than yourself. What's the underlying purpose? Why am I here? Why am I doing this? Be purpose driven in that. Yeah.
And so that's going to be the thing that pushes you through those obstacles, is to be purpose driven. So we don't want to harp on that, but you need to harp on that. Like that needs to be something that you really take some time and you really drive that down, because without a definitive purpose that's going to lead you to passion, that purpose is going to get that passion that's going to push you. How about that? Purpose gives
passion push you. Write that one down.
It's a picture in the pooper.
Oh, no, don't go there.
I'm sorry.
We won't talk about
perception
misquoted lyrics.
Misquoted lyrics. Yeah. Anyway, so that's one of our favorites. You can message us about that and we'll let you know. But so that is going to be a big part of what you're doing is really driving down that purpose. And the next is going to be so we have this overlying perception. And then there is action that has to come behind that. So you have to see what's in front of you for what it is, not for what you make it out to be. But then you can't just sit. You have to move. And we talked about movement and action a couple of weeks ago. Last week. Yeah. And the fact that action is going to drive away fear, because as you're moving, the fear can't sit there because you're moving too fast. And so action is going to help to take that on. So the next two P's kind of fall under that idea. And the first one of those is the pain that you have, that pain that you're feeling. The suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and then character produces hope. And hope is not going to put you to shame. Hope is never going to disappoint. And so that pain that you're feeling, that pain that you're pushing through, that you feel while you do that, is a driving force for you, but then is an encouragement for others as well. There's something about, and that's the next P, is people. There's something about people watching you do this thing that is hard that encourages them and drives them to reach for their goals. How many times have you said something like, well, that so-and-so could do it, so I cannot? Now that applies in a lot of different areas. That applies when you're growing up and your brother gets away with something that you didn't get away with. And you're like, well, my brother did it, why can't I do it?
Or if you're an only child and you didn't get away with anything because you were always the one.
You were the one, but you had friends that got away with stuff though, and
That
so
is
you would go to
true.
your friend's house. Well, if they can watch a movie over there, then I'll go over there. So there are other people that are watching you now, and as they watch you, they are looking at your story and they're waiting for you to stumble. One, to give them an excuse, but they're also looking for encouragement. People need that encouragement. They need somebody that can inspire them to go and do great things. So not only inspire somebody to get an extra bag of chips that they weren't supposed to get, but to inspire people for greatness as well. And as you push through that pain gives you a great story that then inspires and drives other people to do great things as well. But all of that lies under that surface of action. You have to move and take action to get those things done.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's good.
And then, so finally then is will.
Comment below. Is this resonating with any of you? Like, is this, comment below pain. Just use the word pain. If you are seeing that this is something that is an obstacle in your dream right now, or maybe you're dealing with, maybe you're in this part here where you're looking at your purpose. Comment below with purpose if that is something that you are working through right now. Because we want to help you be able to work through these things. And so what's the next one?
All right. So next up is the category of will. Okay. And that will is your drive, this internal will that you have to continue to push. And that's going to go back again. That's going to feed back to that purpose that we talked about earlier. All of this is going to kind of roll onto itself. So the purpose, the pain that's pushing you, and the people that are watching you, and all of that then comes down to your will, your grit, your determination. So,
and not only when you said people are watching you, people in general are a way that also can help us overcome that obstacle. Because when we're experiencing those obstacles, I know that in our lives, when we're experiencing those obstacles with whatever dream has been placed before us, when we surround ourselves with people who can speak truth into our lives, or can share wisdom from God through the Bible, or things that we can meditate on through people, or even hear other people's experiences of them overcoming obstacles, that helps you work through that obstacle as well. So people is a big part of that as well.
Yeah, totally. So under this umbrella of will, you're going to see persistence, and that grit, that determination that pushes you through. So you may know this already, because this is kind of not an unknown thing, and it's been on TV shows and books and other things. But grit is more of a determining factor of success than intelligence or talent. And that's one of the things that they find with very high level groups like the Navy SEALs, is that the training, kind of the washout period leading up to them becoming Navy SEALs, is all about grit. Everybody's going to they're going to make you do so many push-ups that you can't do them. At some point, your arm's just going to quit working. But the people that have the grit and determination to push through no matter what is going on, they are the ones that eventually become a Navy SEAL. They're the one that gets to put that patch on their sleeve, and that gets the honor of being recognized in that way. But it takes that grit and determination. It's not a physical thing. Everybody that goes into that training is physically strong enough to make it. It all comes down to kind of that 6 inches between your ears, what's going on in there, and that persistence that you have to get up and to do the thing that's not easy to do every day. And there's a point where the things that are easy to do eventually become hard to do, because you're doing it when you don't want to. And there's that discipline and the persistence of pushing through, that grit, that determination, that sheer will that is gonna move you in the direction of getting these things done.
I saw that firsthand when we were doing our reset over this last month, October 1st through the 30th. We were doing Whole 30 with a group of people, and I saw two ladies who just had determined, they had such grit to the end, that no, it was not easy to give up grains and dairy and sugar and bean and legumes for a full 30 days, but they did it. And they showed such grit because they knew, I mean, what's the grit for anyway? Because you know that the end result is greater than what is going on for this short amount of time. I think about any of you, shout out to any of you moms out there who've done natural childbirth before. I'm one of those people. I mean, if you have done natural childbirth before, it takes grit. I mean, you have to know that, man, whatever I'm experiencing right now is only going to last a short amount of time, and I'm going to be able to get through it because of this grit. And in the end, it's going to be all over. I'm not going to have to experience this forever, right? And so it takes that grit. So comment below with the word grit if that's what you're using right now to overcome whatever obstacle it is in this dream or this desire that God's planted in your heart.
Yeah. There's also something about setting your mind on it and saying that, again, going back to I can, I will, I must. I can, I will, I must. Remember that in my previous job, I had they had a candy jar in the back room. And so I would just every day, every now and then on my way going to the restroom, and I'd take a long walk and go by this candy jar and maybe I'd just take a piece of candy. And there was, when we were doing Whole30 the previous time, it was not a temptation for me. Just wasn't even like on the radar because I had set my mind on something that I was going to do, and where it would normally have been a temptation, I had made my mind up and I had said, I can, I will, I must do this and move through this. And so the temptation was gone, and the persistence and the grit was the only thing that shone through because I'd already set my mind. And so that's exactly what those ladies were doing.
Yeah. Or maybe we're speaking to you in a business sense. Maybe you are someone who, you know that God has placed on your heart something greater in your life with regards to your path of your career path, or you're sitting there stuck in an office right now and you know that it's sucking the life out of you, and you know that you have a different dream that God's placed in your heart for your life or for your family or for your kids. It's going to take grit to get out and pursue that dream. Okay, so what's the last P?
Okay, so the last P is prayer. Pray on it, pray over it, pray through it, just prayer, and taking it to a higher source, and really working through. And prayer, a lot of people think of prayer as just kind of like a rote recitation of certain combinations of words that are going to appease somebody. But prayer is really, it's a wrestling, it's a struggling, it is a conversation. Prayer is battle. Prayer is battle. There is a spiritual fight that's going on. And the question about prayer is whether you are engaged in the fight or not. And so that prayer is not just a speaking of words, but prayer is fighting in a spiritual arena that over encompasses the physical and mental things that you're doing. And so kind of overlying all of these things, is this idea of prayer and taking your fight against this obstacle, around this obstacle, to a different spiritual level. And that kind of brings me back to this idea of this obstacle. I mentioned this earlier, and I wanted to make sure I rehashed it a little bit. But when we go to this idea of this obstacle as an impediment, that what we need to realize is that a lot of times that obstacle is there to keep you from doing something you shouldn't do, or to help you refine and make the thing that you're doing better, so that it will be the very best thing possible. Right? It's going to help you to think outside the box. So just a quick story. So there's a TV show that we were watching, and it was one of those, like, they would rehab all these places. They go buy this junked up, falling down house and rebuild it and sell it for $1 million or whatever. And one of the companies that was doing the rehabs, they wanted to get some pictures done. And so the boss went to the assistant and was like, we got to get a bunch of pictures made. And he goes, and here's your budget. And just kind of like smart alecky. I was like, you're a nice guy. He writes a big 0 on a piece of paper in front of her. That's your budget. Ready, go. And now, so again, let's go back to perception, right? Your perception could be, how can I hire somebody with $0? Impossible. And then you just shut down. Or you can just say, okay, I've got a $0 budget. How are we going to get these pictures done? And you can take a totally different frame of reference and just see it as an obstacle. It's not an impediment, it's an obstacle. And so it's something that you need to go round, over, through, or you need to move it out of the way. And so what she did is she actually went to a local university where they had a photography program, went and called up one of the professors, is like, hey, this is what we need. We need this. We need to get some shots done. Professor's like, I got a student that wants to do a project and he can come and this can be one of the projects that he does for class. So everybody got what they wanted in the end. They got a great photo shoot. The student ended up getting to do a project that he had wanted to do with real life people, and he was going to get advertised. I mean, it all worked out great for everybody, but the $0, what if he had given a $1,000 budget? They might not have gotten a good product. They might not have had, this student would not have had something that they could do. So the obstacle is not something getting in your way. It is something that is causing you. It is the way for you to accomplish the thing that you're trying to accomplish. So it is the way that's going to make your finished product better.
So if you have an obstacle, we all have obstacles. So we would love to hear from you. Feel free to send us a private message. We would love to pray on it, to pray over it, pray through it with you, as you're going through these. And I'm trying to remember, what are we starting with next week?
Acts of Greatness next week.
So we're going to start our series on acts of greatness. And we're going to talking about how we can have the freedom to admire being a small fish in a big pond. Lots of things that you're wondering about, I can tell with all of those. So join in with us so you can see some of the things that we're going to be talking about over the next, I think, 4 weeks. And we're excited to join you guys. And thank you guys for joining us. If you're finding great value in this, and please share that with those that you love, those that you think would benefit from this. Just click the share button, and you can click the notifications at top. That way you'll be notified when we go live. It's every Friday morning, and some later than others since we're on Pacific Coast time now. So
Friday morning, depending on where you are.
Hey, good to see you, Tracy.
Hey, Tracy.
Join us back here next week. Thank you guys for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.